Anyway, so we bought this car because we just need, when you got a kid and you live semi-rural, you just need a second car. Kid needs a car, just in case of emergencies and stuff. So we found this car, got it checked out, all running smooth, no problems. Mechanic loved it. Said, of all the cars I've looked at, this is a really good one. So anyway, got the cushions out in the sun, and then we have to do a trip, into town to get some stuff. And
just in the mechanic loved it. Like, I understand the whole point of that, right? The mechanic loved it. He's a mechanic that we trust, and he's given it a good recommendation.
Yeah.
But you really do have to find a mechanic you trust in that situation, because if the car is really good, it's not really that much use to your mechanic. You need to find a mechanic who's already really busy, who does not need new work. He does not need your shitty old car clogging up his garage. He absolutely just wants to help you, because if you go to a mechanic, he's got an empty garage, then he's not going to pick the best car for you.
Yeah. Well, look, maybe this mechanic knew more than he was letting on, because we've had the car. I think we bought it just before WA, LA. And, we took it and got it registered and stuff, but then we haven't really driven it until this week when we got back. So yesterday we go out into town, we do a big shop, and we had plans to then, because the sun's out, let's take our own to the beach. We packed a basket, took an umbrella. It was going to be great. But as I'm driving out of town, I'm like, it feels like the car is pulling to the left. And then I start hearing that kind of like thugga, thugga, thugga. And I'm like when you get a flat. So I pull over, check the car, can't see any obvious. I don't know anything about cars. Just let's state this. I do what anyone who knows nothing about cars. I circled the car. I kicked the tires a few times.
Just had a look around to see if there was anything obvious, like anything stuck in it or whatever.
I even looked under the car to see if there was a stick stuck in the wheel, like you used to get your BMX when you were a kid.
Mate, I recently had my brakes were squealing, and I rang up the people. I thought, I'm going to have to get my fucking car towed, like the whole thing. And, because it's your brakes, you don't want to fuck around. And they were like, oh, yeah, sometimes it might just get a rock in it and it'll sound like a squealing. Check if there's a rock in it. And I looked in it, and there was definitely a rock in it. And I was
really?
Like, wow, that saved myself a lot of time and expense.
Well, here's the thing about not knowing anything about cars is I am quite I'm what would I say? I am competent handyman. I can look at, so for instance, yesterday, the cistern in the bathroom wasn't working properly. It just was not taking water from the tap into the cistern. And I was able to look at that, take the cistern apart, work out what was going on with the pump, fix it, go into Bunnings, get the replacement part and fix it. So,
that's you, Charlie. You see a classic
toilet level.
You see a classic case of twisted cistern and say, we're not going to take it.
Yeah,
and
that's right.
You get on the job.
So I can fix toilets. That's but cars, I don't know anything about cars. And it's also,
I know. I've always stood by is that cars and toilets are very different. And if anybody does not know the difference between the two, you are not welcome to use my car. You can still use my toilet.
My brother is very good at cars. He's, he's tried to explain it to me many times. He's come and look at cars with me, and he's like, oh no, they're really simple to understand because they're just, one thing connects to the other. Everything has its function. Once you know what it was, they're not really difficult to work out. Okay, is it the timing belt or is it the carburetor? Anyway, it always just makes no sense to me. So circle this car, can't see anything obvious, get back in, and then I pull over again, and now I see wispy smoke coming from under the bonnet. So I'm like, God damn it. So we are on one of those roads near us where it's farmland essentially. So I pull into a driveway and get out, and we're in the middle of nowhere, and not middle of nowhere, but nowhere walking distance.
Yes.
And so the sun's going down. I said to Jem, why don't you just call an Uber? I'll take the babysitter out, call an Uber. I'll call the mechanic who did the inspection and see, if he's around. So get the mechanic on the line.
He's around. He's like, I've been waiting for this call.
He's lurking in the bushes. I turned around. He was suddenly standing behind me.
He knew exactly how far you could drive on the shit box that it was.
So Jem takes off with Iona. And while I'm waiting for the mechanic, the owners of the house, they just happen to coincidentally arrive home at the same time. And so the dude gets out, and they're very friendly. And I said to him, you know anything about cars? He said, yeah, I know a little bit. I used to actually have one of these cars. And so he proceeds to just poke around under the bonnet. And I don't know what he was saying, but he seemed to think there was nothing wrong with the car from what he could see. Like I explained what the problem was, and he said, "Did you lose power?" And I said, "No, I didn't feel like I was losing power.
He
It
said,
just
well,
felt
just
like
fucking keep driving, you
you
weak
wuss."
shit.
Yeah. And so then he started asking me questions that make. This is when I start to feel really
the best.
not
When
emasculated.
they start asking you questions that you
Yeah.
like
A, it's a car that we only just bought.
Is on or off, and you're like, I
Yes.
don't even know what the thing you're referring to is.
I had to call the previous owner to find out how to open the fucking bonnet because I couldn't find the release for it. Turns out in this particular brand of car, it's an American car. It's on the passenger side, which makes no fucking sense to me at all.
They should always put them in different places. That's the one thing I've said about cars. If you can make everything as different as possible.
But this guy's saying to me, "I bet this is the turbo, right?" And I'm like, "I don't know, mate. Like, A, we just bought it, and B, even if it was, I wouldn't even know what turbo was." And
goes,
I don't even
it's the fucking turbo. Look at this goose down-filled fucking seat, mate. You don't get that in the standard, only the turbo.
I don't even know what turbo does. Like, isn't turbo? I think of Knight Rider. When I think of turbo, I think it makes your car go extra fast, and you can jump, and you can jump ramps hidden behind bushes, right?
It's like basically what they do in Fast and the Furious.
Is it though?
That's turbo.
But why then why don't they call it turbo?
They
put nitrous oxide in the engine.
But that's just an adult Fast and Furious version of turbo.
So a guy who owns the house, he's like, "All right, I'll leave you to it. You know, knock on the door if you need anything." And then the mechanic arrives. And so he gets out. And so I explain the problem, and he does his little engine check with his little pen light, gets under the car, and he's like, "Well, it's nothing. You know, I thought maybe it could be like a wire's burnt out or something." He's gone, "Let's go for a drive."
Yeah.
And I had that moment, you know, like that Warner Brothers cartoon with the frog. "Hello, my honey. Hello, my baby." And then like you turn your back and it's just a frog or whatever. So I get in the car and it's just running perfectly. And the mechanic is like, "So what?" And then I start like, you going, "Fuck, did I imagine it? Is it just because it's a new car, I'm not used to it?" And then like the bitumen changed and suddenly like I'm on rougher bitumen. And then did I imagine that the wheel was tugging to one side? And so we drove for about 5 minutes. I literally, you know, pulled out onto the freeway so I could get up to speed and it's not and the mechanic is doing his best not to like judge me who doesn't know the difference between turbo and NOS, you know? And I'm like, I'm trying, and I can't even describe the sound in a way, any other way that doesn't sound idiotic. I'm like, it was a thudda, thudda, thudda. Like I'm trying to perfectly encapsulate the specific sound. And then, so we stop again. He gets out, he looks, he's like, "I can't see anything." And we get in and he's gone, "Okay, just when we turn this corner, just like feather the brakes." So I start feathering the brakes and he's like, "Oh, okay." He's gone, "Now accelerate." And I start accelerating. And then you hear this thudda, 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 thudda. And he's like, "Okay." And he's gone, "The car's pulling to the left, isn't it?" And I said, "Yes, yes." And he's gone, "Now go to the right." "Is it going to the right?" I'm like, no, it's just," and he's like, "Okay." So we pull over. We get out. Ooh. He jacks up the car, and he's
jacking up something else with the way that he diagnosed that on the road.
Oh, mate, it was
so impressive.
Like, it was so impressive.
Is it pulling a little to the left right now? The minute he said that, mate, I would have been like, "Oh my god, you're like a car whisperer."
Yeah, that's right. He's like, "Just lower the dipstick, get it nice and oily, get ready to shoot some fuel injected." So he jacks the car up. So the two front wheels are off the ground, and he goes over to my side, the driver's side, and he just like he said, I put it in neutral. He just starts spinning the wheel. He's like, "Okay," and then he goes over to the passenger wheel, and he starts trying to turn it, but it won't move. And he's like, "Okay, this is what the problem is." He's gone, "Your brake caliper, the piston is faulty, so it's engaged. So you've been driving with like the left front wheel brake engaged. That's why it's tugga, 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 you know, because the car's firing against that. The brake's on, it's tugging to one side." And I'm like, "Okay, fucking brilliant." And I'm like, "So you can fix it, right?" And he's like, "Oh no, like that's not an easy fix. You've got to get the."
Mate. I just diagnose shit. I just tell you what's wrong. I can do nothing about it. My garage is full.
And I'm like, "So this is nothing that you noticed when you did the mechanical inspection last week?" And he's like, No, it was running smoothly." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, oh, good, mate. good. And he's like, "It's probably because because we've been driving it all day, you know, it gets worse. The more you hit the brake, the more applied the brake becomes. So, you know, him doing a little half-hour inspection, it wasn't going to be noticeable. But me fucking driving around all day and feathering the brake wheel, engaged this fucking caliper, and then it wouldn't release. The piston was broken.
Okay, so feathering the brake, engaging the caliper, and breaking the piston do sound very much like we're in some sort of dom dungeon at this point. It's real.
That's my safety word, feather the brake. It's getting. I don't like. I think your piston's too far engaged. I need you to release the calipers. Feather the brake. Feather the brake.
Okay, so
yeah.
Does that mean you can only drive at short distances, or you can't drive it at all?
Correct. So he said my recommendation is you need to go. He said you need to go. He's going. Who's your mechanic? I'm like, you are. And he's like, no. Like,
absolutely. He's like, I've never met you before. What are you talking about?
He's like, no, you need like a brake specialist. And I said, well, I don't have one. He said, okay, well, there are these great guys, just in Ballina, if you can get to there. And I said, so can I drive it there? And he's gone, well, no. He's gone, if I was you, I would get it towed. That would be the safest. You don't want to, do more damage to the car. And it's like, fucking hell. Like we only got it on Friday. Then we went to WA. I got it insured and everything, but I didn't get on NRMA. So I'm not getting a free tow or anything like that. I'd have to pay for a tow truck. So I was like, God damn it. And then he said, or if you think you can drive all the way there without using your brakes, then yeah, you could probably do it. And I'm like, oh, all right, that's very useful. Thanks very much. And so he left. And so the sun's gone down now. I'm still like.
If you think you could drive the whole. I mean, okay. All right, great.
Okay.
Go on.
So I'm sitting by the side of the road and Jem's calling, wanting to know how everything's are. And so I give her the whole deal.
She's
I'm like,
like,
oh,
the new
God,
car's great, honey. Everything's fine.
And so I'm sitting there with the tow truck number there. And I don't know why I get like this, but I'm like, I'm just annoyed that we've bought this car, already laid some money out for it. And then I'm going to have to pay an extra $400, whatever, for a tow truck.
That is annoying.
And so then I'm like, Charlie, do you reckon you can make it to Ballina without using the brakes?
100%. It's why I feathered my brakes a little on my reaction, because I suddenly realized that's where this story was going.
So it was a 10-kilometer journey, about 11 minutes drive, including...
No, hang on. Is 11 minutes what it would ordinarily take?
11 minutes ordinarily. Oh, mate. Well, probably 5 minutes at the speed I was coming. No, 10 minutes, 11 minutes according to, because I looked it up on Google Maps. It's 11 minutes. Mm-hmm. So it's basically 3 roads, an 80-kilometer road to the freeway, 110 from the freeway, off ramp of 60, and then 80 kilometers along, and then, a couple of roundabouts, and then that was the brake specialist.
Yeah,
so
okay.
I'm like,
I'm imagining, like, I can imagine this in the area in which we live.
Yeah.
I can imagine, like, to get to my house
brakes
from town, it is
yours would be difficult with no brakes because you could live up a winding mountain.
That would be problematic. And on the fact that there's no bridge anymore and the road fell away. That'd be problems. Yeah. But other than that, it'd be fine.
So I'm sitting in this because I forgot. So I did attempt to drive it. After the mechanic left, I was like, okay, I'm just going to try going with no brakes. Yeah. But I got in the car and it started like really shuddering because obviously the brake was on. So I was like, fuck. So I had to pull into literally just like a ditch on the side of the road with cars. Yeah, a ditch as in, not Davey, but ditch as in hole. Yes, a real hole. So cars are flying by and I'm like, okay. I call the mechanic again and say, hey man, I'm thinking about the tow truck, but just about the brakes thing again. I said, I just tried to drive it and it was like really shuddering. So I don't know I will be able to drive it even if I don't use brakes. And he said, oh, well, if you just let it cool down a bit, it'll naturally release. But then as soon as you start hitting the brakes again, that piston's going to engage. So just cool the engine down, wait like 20 minutes just and then go for
like a 20-minute nap, recharge.
Yeah. So I sat there for 20 minutes just watching this, and you know what people are like in the country, the way they drive, fucking quick. So, it's really, I'm negotiating, I'm going to get out of this ditch onto this road. Then there's about 150 meters of driving. Then I've got to merge or turn. It's like a T intersection. I've got to turn onto a T intersection to an 80-kilometer road. So if I'm going to do this with no brakes, I've got to get my timing absolutely right because there are cars whipping by at 80 kilometers an hour at this intersection. So when I leave the ditch, I've got to time it. I've got to wait till there's either no cars on the 80-kilometer road or they're far enough away that I reckon I can get up to speed like fucking Marty McFly get up to 88 miles an hour and take that corner without hitting the brakes and then merge, on at 80 kilometers an hour,
So,
right?
was there any moment in
Oh,
this?
don't give me if there's a simple solution that I've ignored.
No.
Okay, good.
No, I'm not even in a state to be able to think of a simple solution because I'm in such a state of panic about the story that you're telling me at the moment. So, at this point, when you're waiting 20 minutes and realizing that you're going to have to Marty McFly it to get back out on the road,
Yeah.
did it cross your mind not to do it?
Yeah. I think that was the majority of my waiting time was like, yes, should I, shouldn't I, shouldn't I? And then I was like, in my head, I was like, look, if I do it and the car starts really shuddering again, okay, I've given it my best shot, but I can't die wondering. And I want to save myself $400.
I'm going to die.
And I'm going to die.
I cannot drive
I'm not going to die wondering, but I am going to die.
I'm going to die.
In a fiery high-speed crash.
He had no brakes.
And so to make the degree of difficulty even harder. So I'm on a country road, so there's not a lot of fucking street lights. I'm navigating by fucking moonlight and my high beams. So I gets to 20 minutes. I turn the engine over, no problem there. I just like gently push out onto the road. There's no shuddering. I'm like, okay, so I give it a bit more juice. And I'm rolling towards the road. I'm keeping my speed kind of like, but then out of fucking nowhere, a car comes out behind me and is up my ass. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, okay, that's fine. As long as no cars come onto the 80-kilometer road intersection I'm heading towards, it's fine because I can just, I don't need to stop for this guy. I can just roll out and keep going. But then, two fucking, I'm assuming teenagers come ripping down the freeway. Oh no, the 80-kilometer road, like really fast, and the timing is now all shot. I got this guy at my ass, and I am like just trying to travel at a kind of normal speed, but not too fast because I need to be able to slow enough that I can actually take the corner. But then this guy's behind me, so I need to travel fast enough that he's not going to get my ass. So I'm probably doing about, I reckon, 30 to 40k. But then these dickheads, I don't even know who they are. I'm going to assume they're teenagers, like my bins. I'm going to assume. Because one of them is like, they're traveling at 80 and then they slow down and then it's like they're kind of like playing funny buggers with each other. Like one is kind of like flashing the lights and I'm like, oh, God damn it. Now's not the time for your kind of teenage P-plater hijinks. Like I've got to make this fucking turn. So they go and I swear to God, like it was just a split second Matrix-like moment where I'm like, I'm going to make it. I don't care. I'm not going to slow down. So those two cars fly by and I just turn onto the road. Literally as the last car goes past and make it without hitting the brakes. I'm like, excellent. I reckon in my head I've got like 3 feathers of the brake before the car's fucked. I haven't had to use it yet.
Absolutely.
Yeah, goose feathers. So then I'm winding up the 80-kilometer road and that's going fine. That's no problem. It's pretty much a straight road. But then as you get up to the entrance to the freeway, it starts to kind of gets into a 60k zone. Then it gets a bit chicaney and then you go around a roundabout before you enter the freeway. And so I'm like, okay. And
if I know where you're talking about, that it's like also a notorious speed trap there, right?
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. But because the thing is like, I don't have to travel like hell for leather. In fact, it's probably better for me to start at a lower speed and then gradually build until I get to the freeway.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you can't brake.
I can't brake. But at some stage, Will, when I get to the chicanes and the windy bits, I'm going to have to fucking brake because I just can't take those corners at, even if I'm traveling, I think I was doing like 60 at the time or 50 or 60. So I'm like, oh, but I've got a first and second gear in this automatic car. I'm just going to fucking drop into the first gear as I go up this like chicane.
Have you ever done
so I do that?
Have you ever done that before?
Yes.
Okay. Cool.
Yes. Right. Yeah. So that's fine. So drop into the first gear and the car, it just kind of lurches. But I'm okay. I'm still traveling and I haven't had the brakes and I've got some control. Get through the chicanes, hit the freeway, and then I'm just fucking like, mate, let's open her up.
Let her rip.
Let's just fucking let her rip. Open her up. Give her some stick. So I fucking hit the accelerator and it was glorious. Like it was so great. Like the car just
brakes. Where we're going, we don't need brakes.
Yeah, we don't need brakes. So I'm flying along that stretch of freeway and then I'm getting to the Ballina exit, which as you know, You come off that one, it's that little roundabout before you get to that other, whatever that road is. And so, again, it's a 60-kilometer exit. And I'm going from 110. And it's a busy night. A lot of people heading south on the freeway. But I'm flying, mate. I'm like, no one can stop me. Yeah. No one can stop me.
Especially not myself.
Yeah. Except the motherfucking cop car that pulled in front of me.
No.
Because I didn't see to exit the freeway. So I'm like, God damn it. So the cop car pulls in front, like I'd say like 30 meters ahead of the exit. Because my plan was like, I'm just not going to stop, mate. I'm just not going to stop.
Nothing can stop me now.
Nothing can stop me. So again, I down gear it into second gear to take the exit, so I don't have to hit the brakes. So that slows me from 110 to about 80. I'm still traveling too fast. Then I drop down again to first. The car really doesn't like that. Like, ooh, you know. But I'm now sort of holding steady about a 15-meter distance between me and the rear bumper of the cop car. Do you see the way my camera took the focus away from my face there?
Also, just the tension in a police car. Like,
I know. There's a lot at stake. There is a lot at stake. And so the police car, I'm like, well, I said, I guess I've got a feather in me, because when we get to the roundabout, they're going to wait. Yeah. And I'm going to have to wait behind them. And then it should be fine. I can accelerate the rest of the way. I don't know if the police car had issues with their brake calipers, but these guys did not stop. They literally drove through the roundabout. I think they even mounted the middle of the roundabout without stopping. Not with the lights on or anything, just because. I guess because they're cops, man. And they can do whatever they want.
Yeah, except protect people.
Except, yeah. So that gives me the green light. Now, in football parlance, I've got someone give me the perfect shepherd, running a block, running a screen, whatever you like.
Yeah, you're in the slipstream. You're like,
I'm in the slipstream.
You're like one of those Tour de France riders. Like, there's somebody up the front doing all the hard work, just clearing it out for you.
It was brilliant. So, and the cops also were speeding. So it was great because I could get up to 80 and they're still like, they're still ahead of me because they were probably doing 85, 90 or something like that. Then I so I'm 2 blocks away from the destination and I'm like, brilliant, almost done it. 2 roundabouts to navigate.
This has got some real Ferris Bueller's Day Off, like final scene vibes about it, this chase.
So the cops, they continue on. They don't take the same corner I do. I make that corner without having to brake just because I just timed it perfectly. It was like I was in the zone by this stage. It's just in the zone. Then I've got one last roundabout to take a right-hander on, and then I'm there. A fucking car comes out of nowhere, stops. I've got no choice. Hit the brakes. Like the fucking car just is shuddering like it's having like a fit. I finally get into the roundabout. I'm like, and then there's only like a street to go. And I'm like, you motherfucker. Like, come on, car. You can get there. No. Had to fucking put it in neutral and then just like push the rest of the way just to get it to the edge of the street. And then I waited, got the car into the spot. But I did it. Drove without brakes for 11 kilometers.
Have you told your family this story?
Yeah, I told Jem.
Yeah. Is she fine with this?
Well, I think it was a calculated risk.
Was it? I mean,
I'm not saying it was a good calculation.
It's a nice story because you're here to tell it, but
yeah,
it does seem very risky. Like, what if the cops had like noticed that you were driving erratically and pulled you over? Well,
I wasn't driving erratically. I wasn't driving erratically.
They noticed something and you couldn't slow down enough or whatever, and they pulled you over.
Yeah.
And technically, you go on a little chase first because you couldn't stop because of the brakes.
But I think that it wasn't that I couldn't stop. It's just that I didn't want to stop. That's like, true. If an incident happened, I could stop. It wasn't like I was driving without brakes.
There was still brakes.
But it made me think that
going to mean that your car then had to have a 20-minute break.
I've been driving like a moron for all these years with using my brakes like an idiot, like a chump, when I could have been driving all this time, saving a fortune on brake pads.
Well, Fred Flintstone just used his feet. I mean, come on.
To see the full video, join our Patreon.
Patreon.com/TOFOP.